Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Discover the Magic of Metaphysical Tools and Techniques. Summon the angel of your home for a blessed, peaceful, and harmonious life. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm always delighted to be getting to explore new areas of possibility, consciousness, and transformation. And we're going to get to do some really deep diving with a true pioneer. His name is Dr. William Bloom. He's an author, he's an educator, and a director of Spiritual Companions Trust. And he's really been at the forefront of understanding deep metaphysics and how that applies in our daily life. So you're in for a treat here today. So welcome, William.
Thank you, Stephen. It's great to be with you again.
Great. Well, I want to let everyone know up front, we're going to have this hour, and we also have a brand new program with William called The Magic of Metaphysics coming up. And so we'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the hour if you want to go further. So, William, why don't we start a little bit of our journey here today with your backstory and what brought you to really focus on the magic of metaphysics?
Okay, so thank you for asking that, Stephen. I knew you were going to ask it, and I've been thinking very carefully about how I want to answer this, and I'm going to share some information about my biography that I've never spoken about publicly before, because it's very relevant, and culture has changed, and there are a whole load of things happening in our culture to do with altered states of consciousness that are relevant here. I became very interested in metaphysics because in my late teens and 20s, I was experimenting with quite a lot of psychedelics, LSD, mescaline. And one of the things I noticed when I was with other folk who were also tripping was that they were lost in the stuff that they were seeing and picking up in the trip, but I was in it, but watching it. So I was, at a very practical level, I would be the designated driver. So I was someone who could take psychedelics and at the same time be 100% present to the shifts in consciousness that were happening, to the visions, the perceptions that were arising. And at the same time, I was very aware of how people's moods and thoughts could shift the atmosphere. And that was not only when people were taking psychedelics, but in general, I was noticing that people's feelings, moods, intentions shifted the atmosphere, and that some people could deliberately shift the atmosphere in order to influence other folk. And I was deeply curious about what was going on here. Because my dad was a psychiatrist, and he was completely skeptical, in fact, dismissive of anything metaphysical or spiritual or mystic. And yet here was I observing, witnessing over and over again how people could shift the atmosphere. And I then discovered that there was this whole realm of metaphysics, magic, the occult, esoterics, which culture by culture described different bits of how all of this was happening. And that's how my curiosity, but based in being a kind of, okay, I'm in it, but I'm watching it, kind of led me deep into exploration and practice.
Well, thank you for revealing something you haven't publicly that's really intriguing. So metaphysics is a huge area, and it's really deeper understanding of our whole universe. And so I'm curious, what do you feel that you're wanting to bring forward today that's like going to be most practical for people to understand about metaphysics and working with some of these principles in our daily lives?
Well, building on what I've just said about what took me into metaphysics and esoterics and all of that realm of spirituality in practice, was noticing that there were always two groups. Over here was the group who were following and watching and trying to learn the strategies, and over here were the teachers and the priests and the priestesses. And what I'm deeply committed to is showing people the universal structures of energy work, metaphysics, harmonics, and showing people how they themselves can be the leader, can be the person who's driving the chariot, who's sitting in the throne, and not the person who's not in the congregation, not in the audience. So all my work is about empowering folk so they can do this work themselves. If someone can do this work themselves, for example, bringing through a blessing, understanding and reading the atmosphere or the signals in a space, whether that's in a room with people or out in a forest, that if they can do that for themselves, then alongside their real life in society, earning a living, paying the rent, having children, having friends, inside all of that stuff, they can have this other dimension in which they can feel empowered, sitting in the throne of their lives, and also doing something which I think is a God-given right for human beings, which is to allow their curiosity to explore consciousness, energy fields, all of that stuff. Mainstream skeptics and people inside religions will say there's a kind of needy searching going on here, there's a kind of neediness, and I want to push that to the side completely and say, especially in the shift audience, that there are thousands of people, many of us, who are mature, kind of watchful, wise in so much as we know what we don't know, and really wanting to explore these dimensions in a way that doesn't give our power away to anybody else, but empowers ourselves and at the same time is of benefit to those around us and to the planet in general.
Well, it's a beautiful framing, and to really claim the seed of our own power and work with these energetic and intuitive principles at a deeper level. So, what do you find are some of the foundational understandings around energy that it helps to sort of start to set this foundation where we're becoming the actor rather than the audience in working with energy and healing?
You know, I've found over the decades teaching this stuff that people have these aha moments and they're slightly shocked at how basic and obvious some of this stuff is, because unfortunately, a lot of the, there's a lot of, up front I'll say there's a lot of cheap psychic metaphysics out there that ignores actually the most crucial things. So I would say, for example, in the realm of how to live a good life, in the realm of how to be of service, the very first thing you have to take responsibility for, if you're conscious of the metaphysical dynamics, is that you are, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, you're radiating a vibration and an atmosphere into the space. And your vibe, your atmosphere profoundly influences those who are around you. Now, we all know those families, maybe we live in those families where if someone comes home, you can feel as they come through the front door what kind of mood they're in, especially if they're in a bad mood. And you can tell in organizations whether the boss and senior management is caring or not caring, bullying at worst. So the very first commitment of someone learning what we might call higher magic, as the service aspects of energy work, is take responsibility for your own vibe. And that means, for example, that as well as knowing how to set boundaries so other people's vibes don't suck for you, you also know how to set a boundary for yourself so that your own vibe is minimally not negatively affecting anyone else. Positively, if you know how to do it, you've brought in a particular kind of atmosphere which is now radiating, without anybody noticing, this is invisible work, radiating a blessing into the space. So that's where I would start. And it's far away from the kind of Disneyland pictures of a lot of psychic stuff. It's before you can come into the school, you need to commit yourself to ethics and standards of service.
Love that. And so I also like your language of radiating a blessing into the space. And before you said bringing through a blessing, I wonder if so there's just the emanation of a positive state of being, but it sounds like there's a more intentional process of actually calling through and channeling a blessing through our energy field. I wonder if you want to share anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, there are two levels to this, Stephen, that are really important for people to understand. That one level is, okay, in a particular moment, I can choose to center, come down into my body, be at ease, and open up to source, spirit, whatever we call it, in the way that works best for me, and then allow that just to be gently in the space. The second way, when this is deeper, and this is what I would call an experienced practitioner, is that every day the experienced practitioner is taking quiet time to soak in that connection with source, to soak with that ocean of benevolence that does exist there, alongside all the incredible nastiness on our planet. There's this huge ocean of love and benevolence that permeates the universe. And those of us who are metaphysical activists, we need to be soaking in that connection, in that vibe. And we need to be, there's a practice in internal martial arts, Taoist practice called bone marrow breathing, for example, where you actually anchor that benevolent oceanic flow deep into your bones, so that when you go into a situation that turns out to be challenging or difficult, there's something anchored in you already, which is good for the people you're with. So there's two levels. There's the individual activist doing a blessing, but there's also having deep practice, which means that in a sense, you permanently carry a blessing alongside being a neurotic human being, which you contain and care for and deal with all the healing and psychotherapeutic tools that we also have.
I love what you're pointing to there in terms of like the different levels of really becoming responsible for the energy that moves through us. And I'm wondering about also the intuitive side of like perceiving energy, patterns, information, and others, if you want to speak a bit to that function of the metaphysical skills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Stephen. When I started off in this field, which is kind of decades ago now, I'm in my 70s, yay, hallelujah. I was kind of misled, conned in my teens and early 20s into thinking that I needed to be clairvoyant and seeing things in order to be psychic, and I needed to be psychic and seeing things in order to be spiritual. And that was partly because there were lots of people making noise so they were seeing things. Now, I've taught this now for 4 decades, and I've listened to people. And one of the things that I know for certain, and that you'll find in other wisdom traditions, is that deeply intelligent, wise, caring, compassionate, heart-opening of people on the path, interested in metaphysics, 99% of them don't see things. 99% of folk do not see things. What's happening is something comes into their energy field that ripples through their energy field, causing a sensation in the physical body. And as that happens, their intuitive sense interprets the experience. So for me, and for, as I say, 99% of the folk I work with, well, I'm much more interested in the visuals or the sounds. I respect that hugely. My wife is clairvoyant, so I totally have to respect it. The thing for most people is to get them to spend enough time being still and knowing what their energy field feels like when it's just them in it, so that they can discern when other stuff is happening, and so they can choose, like a radar dish, to focus on things, allow stuff in, get to know things. So this is a kind of unglamorous response to your question, but at the same time, it's deeply realistic, and people need hand-holding into how to do this, and to be reassured that the intuitions that they're picking up are valid and useful and real and meaningful, and not to get distracted by pretty pictures.
Yeah, it sounds like clairsentience, is sort of the feeling sense, tends to be predominate with a lot of people, like as our energy is impacted or in different ways by the what's happening in the outer world, that we can then perceive like how that changes our feeling state and get information from that too.
Yeah, but it's actually more sophisticated than that. What you've just described is a kind of very immediate response to vibes in a room. The practiced intuitive is able to sit quietly and know what's going on somewhere else, is able to sit quietly and have a sense of patterns into the future and from the past. So there's a very high level of intuition and wisdom and cognition that comes about from being still and experiencing what's in your energy field. And with my students, I'm absolutely letting them tick the box of, okay, this is happening now in this room with this person. But at the same time, it's very, very beautiful and inspiring to open them up more fully to the bigger experience, where they can explore other elements of metaphysics and altered states of consciousness.
It's a beautiful distinction.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense and resonates with my experience as well. You had mentioned before about sort of like really establishing a connection to source energy as sort of a foundation, and that there's a lot of individual ways to do that. But I wonder if you want to speak a little bit to maybe some of those that you've found particularly useful for your students to sort of set that baseline, so that you can then have the stability and openness that allows some of the subtler information to come in.
Yeah, I love that question now. I didn't love that question 40 years ago when I was Ernest Ernie, the fundamentalist meditator, because I thought the only way to make that deep connection with source was through meditation and sitting quietly and being present to it all. And I've learned that if you ask people the right questions, you can find out when they most easily connect with source. So, for example, when I first asked that question, wanting people to say meditation, because I was Ernest Ernie, the meditator, when I first asked that question in a group, I almost committed suicide, harakiri, because the first person said to me, I was just sitting there watching television with my pussycat on my lap. And I went, the spiritual snob in me died a death. Cat on your lap, no. And then the next person said, on their exercise bike. And the third person said, out in nature. Well, that was a little bit more acceptable to me. Anyway, that persona, that snoppy fundamentalist meditator in me, who's genuinely curious, opened up my heart and mind and learned that the way to approach this is to find out from people when it works best for them. I know, for example, Stephen, you have children, and it may be, if you have a very intense work life, it's actually sitting on the sofa watching cartoons with your children is an opportunity for you to go, oh, thank you for this moment. Oh, I feel connected with Source. So I think people need to find their own gateway to that connection, and I help people explore that. But then after you know the gateway, you need to learn how to let it fully in, surrender to it, yield to it, let it fully engage you. And you need to get into a rhythm of practice so that it anchors deep into you.
Yeah, say a bit more about the full letting it fully in, to sort of letting it sort of deepen into our body. I think my sense is you have some interesting insights in how to do that.
Yeah, what I've noticed is there's loads and loads of folk out there teaching meditation and relaxation, and they all teach it to focus it as if it's something they didn't know and something new for them. But the reality is that everybody listening to us, Stephen, knows their body knows how to be at ease already. They sleep, they hang out watching television, they sit out in nature. Their body knows how to be at ease. So there's nothing new to learn there. What's new to learn for people is to recognize, okay, it's in these situations that I connect with Source. Singing, dancing, watching television with my children, out in nature, meditating, reading a book, making a noise, trance dance. I don't know what it is for folks, but what they need to do is then go, okay, and internally, mindfully, they need to pause, notice the maybe very subtle sensations of the experience, and it will feel good. It'll be a good feeling. And then learn, and practice improves it, learn how to allow that little feeling to ripple, flow, cascade more fully through the body. So on a good day, somebody would be meditating or next to a stream or with their children, and they go, okay, here I am feeling it. Let's just give way completely to it. Let me surrender to it. Let me be empty to it. On a bad day, you're feeling uptight, neurotic, nervy, anxious, concerned, aroused. You can't go into it. But you do the practice anyway. And over the months, years, it becomes deeply embedded in you and supportive of you and fuels you.
Beautiful. I just love it. There's a depth of wisdom you have about each of these areas. It's so refreshing and powerful. So, William, I know we're gonna talk about angels today and summoning in the angel of your home, which is frankly new territory for me. And I'd love to, so we've been talking more about a kind of an embodied personal experience, and now it's sort of opening up to things that might be a little further afield from daily experience, like angels. And first of all, share a little bit about your experience and then why working with angels or archetypal spirits or nature spirits is really can be a fundamentally beautiful part of our spiritual life.
If you explore metaphysics, if you explore esoterics, if you explore altered states of consciousness, one of the things that starts to happen is you recognize that everything in its own way is alive. And you also start to recognize that not only is it alive, but it seems to have some kind of persona, some kind of identity. And this identity could be a blade of grass, could be a waterfall, it could be the sun, it could be a star system. It could also be an idea floating there, the idea of courage or beauty. So inside metaphysics is the notion that alongside the dense physical human world that we all see with our five senses and hear and taste and feel is this other world which is in subtle energy, but it's hugely alive, it's hugely sophisticated, it's very complex. And there are many, many beings and personas that are there floating in this world. This is where what I was saying a few minutes ago becomes absolutely crucial, because the only way to really explore this inner world of archetypes, platonic forms, angels, spirits, is to be quiet for extended periods of time and allow your consciousness to sense what is cooking there. So you remember I started this whole conversation with you by talking about my experiences on psychedelics, and there were the folk that are kind of lost in the tripping, and then there's the folk that are guiding it. And it's the same in shamanic and occult and Wicca groups where people are journeying to explore and look at other realms. There will be someone who's also journeying and exploring other realms with them, but that person is also guiding them. I think, and I know, and I experience from all the teaching I've done and watching people grow and develop, that everybody, if they want to, if it's part of their spiritual jigsaw, can learn how to be still and make friends with, learn about this other dimension of spirits and angels. And in a little while, we'll talk about how that relates to somebody's home.
Well, why don't we just dive into that? I think it'd be fascinating because it really grounds it in a practical application.
Okay, so this is how it would relate to somebody's home. What is your idea of the perfect home? What words arise in you for the perfect home? Nurture, safe, protected, loving, food, enjoyment, entertainment, safety, all that kind of stuff. Human beings over thousands of years have been thinking this idea and feeling this idea of what the perfect home is. And energy follows thought. So there is a cloud of thought floating around the planet which has this idea of the perfect home in it. But it's bigger than that, because this idea of the perfect home you'll also find in a bird's nest. You'll find it in a rabbit warren. You'll find it with many, many animals who have to find a quiet space where they can sleep. So it's not just human, it's also built into nature. And then there's this other idea, which is, it's not just human and built into nature, it's built into the cosmos. And can you sense and feel, imagine that in the cosmos as a whole, there is this notion of the perfect home, because this is the perfect place to retreat and grow. And perhaps the Milky Way, the milk of the goddess, is one symbol of the nurturing galaxy for us. Now that big idea is alive. The idea of the perfect home is alive in its own way, and in the same way that Great Spirit has kind of broken into many, many pieces to create the human soul, the human spirits. So this wonderful idea of the perfect home also has its representatives, also has its flames, its tongues of light, which also represent this archetypal sense of the perfect home. These are angels, spirits of the perfect home. If in your heart, your gut, your mind, you go, okay, that's possible, then it's very, very interesting for people every day in their homes to welcome in to their homes the spirit, the angel of the home. If that makes sense to you, Stephen, I'll actually lead us into an exercise now. Do you think that makes sense enough?
Yeah, I thought it made perfect sense, and I love that it's a much vaster cosmic context that you're kind of channeling it into your own personal home. Very beautiful.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, the exercise we're going to do is really interesting because, we're going to do something practical and useful. We're going to call in the angel, the spirit of the home, and people are going to experience how that can just really usefully shift the atmosphere in the place where you live. But it also contains some elements, some metaphysical elements that are really useful to know about. I just want to make them nice and clear. The first element is that energy follows thought. So if you're thinking or feeling something, there's an energy that radiates out from you, that vibrates out from you. And this energy, the energy of your thought or feeling, has a harmonic or a note or a frequency to it. And that frequency will connect with anything out there that's of a similar frequency. So if you think of something beautiful, if you're thinking or feeling something beautiful, that sets a particular harmonic that will connect with beauty. In this case, the energy follows thought. The harmonic is to do with the perfect home. And that will connect you with an archetype. That's an energy cloud that contains within it the pattern, the blueprint of the perfect home. And that archetype is alive in its own right. And let's call it an angel or a spirit in this case. So there's an angel or spirit of the perfect home. And then what you can do is you can invoke and invite it in to your own home. To do that effectively, you need to be quite a calm kind of receptacle, a chalice, a grail, a pot, a cauldron that receives it. If you're going to use magical symbolism, there's the mind, which is like your wand, and then there's the sword, which calls it in. And then when you've called it in and allowed it to just come into the space where you are, there's an attitude of gratitude and patience and trust. So we've got these elements here that energy follows thought. There's a harmonic to the thought. It connects with the archetype. You call it in, and then you calmly receive it, and you're grateful, and you're patient, and you trust that it's working. So it's easiest to do this kind of exercise with your eyes closed, but don't close your eyes if that doesn't work for you. The reason people close their eyes is because it means you're not getting stimulated by visual stuff that will trigger your brain and nervous system into doing something. So just join me right now in just closing your eyes and just allow your body to just sink and drop down into being at ease. Your body knows how to be at ease. It does it when it's sitting in your favorite chair at home, or sitting at a cafe, people watching, or out in nature, cloud watching, or looking at a view. Just let your body sink and drop down into being at ease. And then patiently allow yourself to start contemplating, thinking about, having in your heart and mind the idea of the perfect home. Perfect home is a cosmic, archetypal idea. The perfect home, whether it's for a galaxy, a planet, a palace, an apartment, a van, a burrow, or a nest. The perfect home is safe, it's nurturing, it's warm, it has safety and creativity in it, and food, and all the things that make your life comfortable. It's a place where you regroup and replenish and become strong again, and it's a place where there's happiness and connection. And that's an archetypal concept that exists in the cosmos. And that archetypal concept is an angelic being, a spirit. And just in a very calm and trusting way, picture yourself imagine, feel yourself in your home. Again, whether it's an apartment or a house or a van, tent even. You're in your home and you're just quietly saying, I know you're out there, great angel of the perfect home. I invite you in. I invite you into my home. I invite you into my home. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And as you contemplate doing this, perhaps you can feel or see yourself, imagine yourself doing something every morning that welcomes in this angel. Perhaps you light a candle, or arrange some flowers, or say a prayer, or do a dance movement, or simply stand there quietly. Or maybe it happens when you draw the curtains. I don't know. When does it happen for you? So you devise your own activity that goes along with inviting in the angel of your home. And then lighting the candle, or arranging the flowers, or saying the prayer, or just standing there. Just be quiet for a minute and allow yourself to feel the presence. And the presence of this angel, this spirit of your home, will magnetically attract into it all the harmonics of the perfect home. And people who come into your space will just feel a gentle, soft attraction to be behaving and feeling in a way that is safe, nurturing, creative, all those things that make a perfect home. And just in your heart, in your own way, say thank you. Feel some gratitude. The first few times you do this, maybe you won't feel anything, but there's a good aphorism, which is really true in this case: just fake it until you make it. Do it until you feel it. So do this every morning, every morning, every morning, week after week, month after month, and patiently allow yourself to feel and watch the shift in atmosphere that happens in your home. So there you are, Stephen. It's one of those exercises that needs to be done with trust in the first place, and patience, and just a gentle allowing for it to happen. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, that's lovely. Thank you. It really kind of struck me how it's like the process of sort of calling a blessing through us and radiating it out into the world. It's like the parallel process with the angel and the candle, and to sort of like that's doing it at the core of our home just kind of creates a 24/7 blessing energy moving forward into our home. It's really lovely.
I mean, talk to any shamanic practitioner, wise tribal person, someone who is deep into spirituality, and you'll find almost without exception that they do this in one way or another. In one way or another, family altars are nothing new. The trick is to just keep it going. And I've known houses where there've been bad dynamics, bad rows, and just somebody in the house just doing this every morning quietly. Only first just to light a candle, say a little prayer. It's just shifted things. Just shifted things.
Yeah, I remember in Bali being really moved by that. How they would every morning put out a little offering at a little altar for a home and calling in spirits, and just creates a much higher
Yeah.
vibration for the whole world, for the whole community.
Yeah, and what's hugely important about that higher vibration is it attracts people to behave better. You know, I mean, it's living life is difficult enough, you know, and doing the spiritual path is also it's challenging. You know, on the one side, there's this instinct in us to be weird and wild, you know, which is useful and expansive and great. And then there's this other side which needs to be soft and graceful. So one of the things that people learn doing metaphysical work, practical, experiential metaphysical work, is to balance and bring into harmony, bring into a marriage this wild and weird with the soft and graceful. And it's a nice integration for people. It's very healthy.
I love what you're sharing, and I wonder if you can extend this into, so beyond just the home, how can you start to work with angels and nature spirits and sort of different areas of our lives to sort of enhance and bless them?
You know, this is how we work with angels and nature spirits in our daily life is something I teach over weekends, weeks, years, and just kind of see if I can encapsulate it in just a few minutes. There are perfect patterns, perfect blueprints for nearly everything, like how a tree will flower, how the ecology of a landscape can be, how the dynamics in a school can work best, how arts can be done, all that stuff. There are, if you just pause for a moment, you can get a sense that there are perfect patterns for how it can be done. And in the arts, they're called muses. And in therapy, they're called healing angels. And in business, if you go back to the big markets of ancient Rome and Greece, there would be an altar there and the altar would be to the gods of good communication. So that the overlighting vibe coming into the marketplace was make it fair and enjoyable. Whatever trade is going on, make it fair and enjoyable. So the trick to cooperation with the angelic world, the Deva world, which is a Hindu term for it, the major trick is basically go quiet, have a sense of how perfect it could be, ask for help, and then allow your intuition to attract you into the appropriate behavior. So there's what you want to work with. There's the overlighting blueprint of how perfect it can be. There you are as a human being going, okay, I need some help. I'm opening myself to the fact it could be perfect. I call in the angel of business. I call in the angel of my home. I call in the angel of gardening. I call in the angel of healing. I call in the angel of education. I call you in, and then I allow myself to be intuitively attracted into the appropriate behavior. That would be a basic model, which I'll explore more deeply in the course.
Wonderful. Well, I know we've set out a fair amount of ground to cover today, so I'm going to ask another question that we put on the page describing today. So, a common language for spiritual development that helps make life-changing spiritual growth accessible to everyone. I mean, I already feel like you've been doing that in many ways, is languaging some of these more esoteric concepts in a way that just makes a lot of sense. But did you have other things that you're wanting to bring forward around understanding a kind of a shared language for spiritual development?
I like that inquiry very much, Stephen, because it kind of points to all the work you're doing in the shift, and it points to a kind of a cultural wave happening on the planet, which is positive and good and loving and full of growth, which we need given all the other rubbish that's happening. We're in a stage of huge cultural shift away from at least 6,000 years of religion and spirituality and shamanism essentially being both very geographically located and usually led by a chief, usually a man with a big hat and robes. Something's happening now as we move into global village, global planetary awareness. And we're developing a language about energy work, about metaphysics, which is moving on from the boxes of establishment, patriarchal, even some tribal religions and spiritualities. And there are, phrases like coming from the heart. That's a kind of universal piece of language. There's an understanding about the need to be embodied, grounded, centered. A lot of people need hand-holding into what that actually means, but there's a sense of that. And for someone like me, who's old enough to have been born into a time when everything was deeply stuck in its locations, geographical locations, cultural prisons, patriarchal leaders, which still exist all over the planet, of course, that the whole thing has shifted with global village communications. And we're at the point of exploring the right communications and the essential foundation. And you know this maybe better than me, Stephen. The essential foundation for this is you need to have your heart open and be open to conversation and be open to different perspectives and allowing them to build together the way we understand things. And at the same time, recognize that given all that, there are also some core principles that remain the same. They range from the ethics of compassion and love and mindfulness and presence through to behaviors that are spiritual techniques, like, for example, being still and noticing, sensing, intuiting what's happening, And we're exploring that together. And that's why I love the shift, support it. And it's why I'm deep in teaching this stuff, because I'm teaching what I love to explore.
Well, I really appreciate that deep alignment, and you have such a beautiful way with words. The last subject we said we would share a little bit about in terms of all weaving these different threads of metaphysics together is really how mind, energy, and nervous system work together, and kind of having an understanding of framing of that helps us to do this kind of the deeper work that you're talking about.
Oh, that's such a big question, and we're on a cutting edge of understanding here. We're on a cutting edge of understanding here, and neuroscience, polyvagal theory, gut, ecosystem stuff, all of that is hugely real. I mean, modern anatomy, modern medicine completely understands that brain, heart, lungs, gut, one unit, profoundly linked together. What goes on in the gut affects the brain, what goes on in the heart affects both of them, all of that stuff. But all of that stuff is also penetrates through to the whole nervous system of the body. From a metaphysician's point of view, then add to that what I've just described as kind of dense physiological anatomy is sitting inside the matrix of an energy field made up of prana and chi. That's vitality and needs to be flowing and healthy. But that is only the beginning of what we might call esoteric anatomy. Yes, there's this pranic field that permeates and interpenetrates the body, but there's also an aura of energy that's made up of feelings and emotions and thoughts, and it's quite complex. And when something, I'll give you a simple example, when something in our aura is knotted up, and that knot may come from past life experience, may come from early years trauma, may come from, who knows where it comes from, but there's a knot there. That knot ripples through the field into the brain, vagus nerve, heart, lungs, gut, and will manifest as illness or discomfort at the very least. And so the metaphysician, the healer, is now looking at a much larger model than just, okay, here's the discomfort in the body. This is precisely where the intuition comes in, because there's going to the good therapist, healer, person working on themselves is now going to start exploring intuitively and instinctively where the blockage actually is. So we're now moving into the realm of Taoist practice, where it's most explicit, internal martial arts, where there would just be a basic guideline, which would be if you want your body to be healthy and at ease, then you need the energy, the chi of your whole body also to be at ease and in flow and in harmony. And we're opening up a very big subject here, Stephen. Very big subject. But I hope that kind of gives us a bit of a hint at where it goes.
Well, it's clear there's so many layers of unfolding you can do. I love the nuance and depth of and precision that you've really you developed in your spiritual explorations, and it's really so revelatory for us to be in dialogue with. So I think now would be a good time to talk really about how people can go deeper, because you have so much that you can share and give and help to empower in others. So we're really blessed that William has created a new program for us. It's called The Magic of Metaphysics. Stimulate your intuitive and psychic abilities to work with subtle energies for well-being, transformation, and harmony. You can find it laid out at the URL magicofmetaphysics.com, magicofmetaphysics.com. There are no prerequisites for this, although it will probably tend to attract people who are a bit deeper on a spiritual path, since William has a gift for those subtle nuances and that the more advanced seekers want. But it really is open to anybody who feels called. If your heart is calling you, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, then this is your chance to go deeper. So, William, I'd love for you to share in your own words really the deeper purpose of the course and how does it really ripple out into somebody's life, and then we'll read out the module titles and you can give a little preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah, thank you. So, like I said earlier, what I really want for people, for you, the viewer, the listener, is that you have a series of aha moments where you go, okay, that's what I've seen being done, that's what I've heard being done, this is what I've been doing, and okay, now this makes more sense. Now I'm feeling and experiencing it more fully. Now I can do it more wisely, knowing that it's a journey. It's a journey. So all the way through these 7 sessions, I will be guiding you through particular aspects of metaphysics so that you yourself can put it into practice. And if you yourself can put it into practice and be reflective about how it's going, it will liberate you from being put in a box of beliefs by someone else. It will give you a much greater sense of center and authority and sitting in the throne of your own life, like the priest, priestess, the emperor, the empress sitting in their throne in the tarot pack or the charioteers. their wonderful chariot riding over the sun. And at another level, I'm hoping, sisters and brothers, that you just go, oh, William's another inquirer, that he's got some clarity and a way of doing it that will really help put some pieces together in my jigsaw. So I'll come out of this tad wiser, tad more reflective, a tad more understanding what I as a soul do with subtle energies, and this will then radiate out into your life in general and be of service to those around you.
Beautiful. I suspect it'll be a little more than a little tad, but you're going to be giving them quite a lot. So module 1 is the 3 essential strategies for protection and empowerment on your spiritual journey.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, lovely brothers and sisters, you have to know how to open to it all, and have to know how to close to it all, and you have to know how to bring in your spirit helpers, your animal totem, your tree totems, in order to bring you protection. It's very basic stuff. It's the first thing that should be taught on all courses. Open, close.
Module 2, understanding your 3 sacred temples, body, earth, and heaven, for empowerment, strength, and knowing your true place in the universe.
This is where this unit is where I shock people. Because where do you live? Do you know where you live? You're in your body, and you're on the planet. You're in the cosmos. So you need to be aware of your place physically. What's north from you? What's south? What's east? What's west? There's the earth that you're living on. And then there's your own body, which is the temple that your own soul expresses through into the temple of Gaia. And all of this was within the temple of the cosmos. It's inside out, upside down. It's a kind of holistic way of understanding how you are in this wonderful ecosystem, which is Gaia and the galaxy.
Module 3, harness the power of oracles, dreams, and readings. Interpret messages from subtle beings for healing of the mind, body, and spirit.
This is going to be a really interesting one to teach, because how is it that you can interpret what's coming and what's going on for someone? And first of all, you need to understand your own psychic mechanism, and then you need to understand how in the metaphysical world of many probabilities, many possibilities that run through from the past into the future, out of these many probabilities, how they then come together in a moment of synergy and synchronicity that speaks through an oracle. We'll explore all that together.
Module 4, cooperate with angels, nature, spirits, and archetypes to enhance and improve every part of your life.
There we go. That's the blueprint I was talking about with you a few minutes ago, Stephen. It's every part of your life, every aspect of living has a spiritual angelic realm associated with it that's helpful and supportive and attracts you into a much more fulfilling way of doing whatever it is you want to do. And we'll discuss that fully, whether it's arts or healing or your home or work or gardening. We'll look at how best to work in those fields, working with angelic corporations, the corporation of the spirits.
Module 5, connect with the universal energies of positive development and healing to invoke a blessing for individual well-being and global harmony.
You go into any spiritual tradition, any religion, any tribal grouping, and there are events where the medicine person, the priestess, priest, will bring through a blessing for the situation, for the group, for the circumstances, and we'll explore in this session precisely how you can do that too.
Module 6, create a life of well-being, prosperity, and fulfillment with the principles of manifestation, magnetic attraction, and sympathetic magic.
In this session, we're going to look very realistically at how your persona, your karma, your group karma that belongs to your family and ancestors are sitting in you. It's a bit like an iceberg. There's a bit that's visible up the top, and then underneath there's this huge area that may be unknown to you, and how you can attune all that so that it magnetically attracts to you that which is positive, useful, fulfilling. And we'll do it in a very realistic and encouraging way.
And finally, Module 7, call in and be supported by specific energies and spirits to improve, transform, and fulfill your life's purpose.
There are energies, vibrations, essences that are hugely useful in terms of shifting the dynamic and the atmosphere and the vibration in any type of situation. Sometimes these are anchored down into a particular object called a talisman. And in this last session, I'll show you the precise model for making talismans of your own.
Very exciting. Well, there's just so much that you're bringing into this program, and I know it's going to be such a blessing for those who choose to join. I'll share a bit more about it. So again, you can find the whole program laid out at magicofmetaphysics.com. You'll get not only 7 90-minute live sessions with William, each is going to be filled with deep insights. There's also going to be interactive exercises. There'll be Q&A time live with him. You get recordings of every session, video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts. There's weekly exercise for home. There's Facebook community group to support and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that help enhance your journey as well. There's a video teaching from William called William Bloom Guided Movement, and a PDF sample chapter from Personal Journey. You want to share about either of those, William?
Yeah, it's, I used to do loads of real life groups, not digital on Zoom. And I'm also a dancer, and I have a 10-minute movement session that I always used to do in my live classes. So this is a 10-minute session of movement that you might find useful, no matter how old you are, no matter what your physical state is. You may find these movements useful. And I've put it up there because if we're working together for a 90-minute session, we'll have a break in the middle, always for a comfort break, a stretch break. But it's really useful sometimes to do some stretching and movement before you come into a session. So I think it might be useful for you. And it may be something you want to use at other times as well. And I have taught dance and movement. Not a musician, but I'm a dancer as well.
That's exciting. I didn't know that about you. Well, those are great extra bonuses. And there's one special bonus that folks get when you sign up right away. And this is our way to encourage you to really tune in now and make a decision while you're most connected with what William is sharing. And if you move forward today by midnight, you'll get a special bonus of PDF Orbs Speak, how beings from other dimensions are helping transform human consciousness. Very intriguing. William, you want to share a little bit about that special bonus?
It's actually the whole of the book, not just a part of it. And to my shock, horror, about 25 years ago, I found myself with a voice in my head wanting to write a book. And this is the book that came through. And it's about there are beings in the universe who, kind of like avatars, enormous galactic gurus who seek to help humanity. And Orb Speak is one group of them talking through me about how group dynamics work, how people's energy and consciousness ripples through to affect other folk, and some relationship hints as well. I was really embarrassed when I found myself doing it, because I always assumed that anybody channeling a book was not like me, and there I was doing it.
Well, that's very, your candor is refreshing, and you bring such a deep, grounded wisdom to even these very out there activities. I love it. So I'm sure there's so much profound insight in there. So that's your special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128. You save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. Course is going to start May 24th, run Wednesdays at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. So I particularly encourage you to go to the page at magicofmetaphysics.com and read through some of the testimonials from previous students. His insights and experiences were most inspiring, truly a gift, compassionate grasp, and extensive knowledge brought peacefulness into every aspect of the program. William is he's a real deal teacher, and you are going to receive great benefits from studying with him and working with him and taking these practices into your life. So there's some great testimonials from people who have made that voyage before you, and I think you will find the same for yourself. So again, you can find all the details at magicofmetaphysics.com, magicofmetaphysics.com, and you get that special bonus on Orb Speak when you sign up by midnight tonight. So, William, it's always fascinating to be with you. So thank you for what you've shared, and really your whole life path, the level of discernment and depth to which you've explored, it really emanates from you. And so anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper into the magic of metaphysics with you?
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for this whole opportunity and for being able to work on this platform. So, folks, if you're thinking of working for me, I'll tell you the kind of people who like to work with me. They tend to be a bit independent-minded, but with open hearts. And they tend to be people who are prepared to put aside fixed ideas and allow their curiosity to take them into realms that are new. As consciousness expands, we move into realms that we could not understand with our previous consciousness. It's one of the things about consciousness expansion. It's one of the things about our heart getting bigger, is that we go into realms that before that, we just couldn't get it. So what I want for you, for me, for anybody I work with, for everybody on the planet, is that we get bigger hearts, become more conscious, and understand that the subtle realms, the metaphysical realms, and how we influence it and how it influences us has a huge effect, not just on us, me, you individually, but also ripples out to benefit the whole of humanity and all the beings and life of Gaia. Please join me. It'd be lovely to work with you.
Well, thank you for that beautiful and cosmic invitation. So thank you, William, for your time, your depth of wisdom, and thank you all for joining us, and hope you found this as enriching an hour as I have. And if you choose to move forward, you can do so at magicofmetaphysics.com. I do encourage you to at least go to the page and give it a read through and really tune in for yourself. And if you're feeling the call, you're warmly welcome, and you get that special bonus on Orb Speak when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you so much, William Mandel.